My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the quickest ways to exhaust your heart is to think too much about people, their actions, their words, their silence, and their intentions. We replay conversations, imagine scenarios, and worry about how others see us, forgetting that most of this pain is created inside our own minds. Islam teaches us to guard our hearts because not everyone deserves that much space in your thoughts. When you give people too much mental energy, you slowly give them control over your peace. But Allah never asked you to carry the weight of other people's choices. He asked you to trust Him, to focus on your own heart, and to place your worries where they belong in His hands. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us that peace comes from reliance on Allah, not from overanalyzing people. So free your mind from unnecessary attachment. Think less about people and more about Allah, because when your heart is connected to Him, no one else can disturb your peace. Overthinking people steals your peace. Overthinking people quietly drains the heart until peace slips away without you noticing. You replay words that were said, imagine meanings that were never intended, and worry about reactions you cannot control. Islam teaches us that this inner turmoil does not come from people themselves, but from giving them more space in our minds than they deserve. The heart was not created to carry endless assumptions. It was created to remember Allah and rest in His decree. When you overthink someone's silence, you punish yourself for something you may never understand. Silence does not always carry meaning, and not every unanswered message is rejection. The believer learns to stop filling gaps with fear. Allah knows the truth of every heart, and that knowledge is enough to calm yours. Peace begins when you stop trying to read what Allah did not ask you to read. Overthinking hands your peace to people without their permission or awareness. They go on living freely while your heart remains trapped in thought. This imbalance is harmful to the soul. Allah does not want you to suffer internally over external matters you cannot change. Letting go mentally is an act of self-mercy and obedience to Allah's wisdom. The mind becomes restless when it focuses too much on creation instead of the Creator. You begin to question your worth based on how others treat you. You measure your value by responses, attention, and behavior. But Islam reminds us that dignity comes from Allah alone. No human reaction can add to your worth or take it away. Overthinking often comes from seeking reassurance from people instead of Allah. You want clarity, validation, and certainty, but you look in the wrong direction. When you turn back to Allah, your heart learns to settle without explanations. Tawakkul replaces anxiety, and trust replaces obsession. That is where peace lives. Thinking too much about others weakens your focus on your own growth. You spend mental energy analyzing them instead of improving yourself. Allah calls us to reflect, but not to torture our hearts with endless assumptions. Reflection should lead you closer to Allah, not deeper into confusion about people. Many hearts are exhausted not because of hardship, but because of overthinking. The problem is not what happened, it is what you keep replaying. Islam teaches us to cut off thoughts that bring no benefit. If a thought increases fear, sadness, or resentment, it is not worth hosting in your heart. Overthinking people also blinds you to Allah's protection. Sometimes Allah saves you through distance, silence, or unanswered questions. What you see as loss may be mercy in disguise. When you stop obsessing over people, you start noticing how Allah has been guarding your heart all along. A peaceful heart accepts that not everyone will understand you, choose you, or stay with you. This acceptance frees the mind from endless questioning. Allah did not promise constant human companionship. He promised His own presence. That promise is far more stable than any relationship. When you overthink, Shaitan whispers worst case scenarios into your heart. He magnifies small things and turns them into heavy burdens. Dhikr silences these whispers. Remembering Allah reminds you that nothing happens without His permission, and nothing meant for you can miss you. The Prophet ﷺ lived among people, yet his heart was never controlled by them. He trusted Allah's plan over people's reactions. Following his example means learning when to care and when to release. Caring too much about people's behavior pulls you away from prophetic balance. Overthinking people often leads to self-blame. You question what you did wrong, what you could have said differently, or how you could have been better. Islam teaches self-accountability, not self-destruction. Learn from mistakes, but do not chain your heart to regret. Peace grows when you accept that some answers will never come. Allah sometimes closes doors without explanations, because explanations would not bring peace. Trust would. When you accept this, your heart softens and your thoughts slow down. Acceptance is a form of worship. The more you think about people, the less room there is for Allah in your heart. Overthinking fills the space meant for tranquility. But when you remove unnecessary thoughts, Allah fills that space with sakina. Calmness enters where obsession once lived. Your heart was never meant to chase clarity from people. It was meant to find certainty in Allah. When you trust Him, unanswered questions stop hurting you. You learn that what left your life did so by divine permission, not by accident or rejection. Overthinking people keeps wounds open longer than necessary. Healing begins when you stop revisiting the pain. Islam encourages moving forward, not staying stuck. The heart heals faster when it focuses on Allah's mercy instead of people's behavior. Thinking less about people does not make you cold, it makes you wise. You still care, but you no longer attach your peace to others. You learn to love without obsession and to detach without bitterness. This balance protects your iman and your emotional health. Overthinking steals gratitude. When your mind is busy analyzing others, you miss the blessings Allah placed right in front of you. Peace returns when you shift your attention from people to provision, from worry to thankfulness. Gratitude calms the heart instantly. Allah knows what people think, intend and hide. You do not need to solve what Allah already sees. Hand the matter to Him and step back. This surrender is not giving up, it is choosing relief over restlessness. The heart finds rest when it remembers that Allah is in control of relationships, outcomes and timing. Overthinking fades when trust grows. The believer learns to say, Ya Allah, I leave this to you, and truly mean it. When you stop overthinking people, your heart becomes lighter, your sleep becomes deeper, and your faith becomes steadier. You realize that peace was never found in understanding others, it was found in trusting Allah. And the heart that trusts Allah is finally free. Not everyone deserves space in your mind. Your mind is one of Allah's greatest gifts, and not everyone deserves access to it. When you allow every person's words, opinions or behavior to live rent-free in your thoughts, you slowly exhaust your heart. Islam teaches us to guard what is precious, and the mind is among the most precious trusts Allah has given you. Peace begins when you choose carefully who you allow into your inner world. Some people enter your thoughts not because they matter, but because you gave them permission. They may not even be thinking about you, yet your mind keeps returning to them. This imbalance drains your energy and steals your focus. Allah does not want you to be mentally occupied by those who add no value to your faith or growth. Not everyone who crosses your path is meant to stay in your heart. Some are lessons, not lifelong companions. When you keep replaying their actions, you give them importance Allah never assigned to them. Wisdom is recognizing who deserves your attention and who should be released from your thoughts. Your heart becomes heavy when your mind is overcrowded. Too many people, too many opinions, too many imagined meanings. Islam calls us towards simplicity, clarity of thought, and purity of intention. When you remove unnecessary mental attachments, your heart finally finds room to breathe. Some people do not deserve space in your mind because they never respected space in your heart. They hurt you, confused you, or repeatedly disturbed your peace. Continuing to think about them only extends their influence. Letting go mentally is how you reclaim control over your emotions. Allah did not create your mind to constantly analyze others. He created it to reflect on Him, His signs, and your own growth. When you shift your focus from people to purpose, anxiety decreases and clarity increases. Your thoughts become lighter because they are aligned with what truly matters. Not everyone deserves mental space simply because they once mattered. People change, situations change, and Allah redirects hearts. Holding on to thoughts about people Allah has already moved away from you delays your healing. Acceptance allows peace to enter where resistance once lived. Some minds are tired not from work but from unnecessary thinking. Thinking about those who do not think about you. Worrying about opinions that do not define you. Islam teaches balanced care where it benefits, release where it harms. Protecting your mind is protecting your iman. Your mental space should be reserved for those who bring you closer to Allah, not further from Him. If thinking about someone increases your anxiety, anger or sadness, that is a sign to step back. Allah guides the believer toward what brings sakina, not turmoil. Not everyone deserves access to your inner dialogue. Some people thrive on being the center of attention even in your thoughts. When you stop feeding those thoughts, they lose power over you. Silence in the mind can be just as powerful as silence on the tongue. Your worth is not measured by how much space someone occupies in your mind. The believer learns to value themselves through Allah's view, not through people's behavior. When this understanding settles in the heart, unnecessary thoughts naturally fade away. Thinking less about people is not selfish, it is self-respect. You are choosing to prioritize your emotional and spiritual well-being. Islam encourages strength of character, not emotional dependency. A strong believer knows when to care and when to detach. Some people do not deserve space in your mind because their presence there brings no benefit. Islam teaches that thoughts should lead to goodness, reflection or growth. Thoughts that only bring worry or sadness should be gently dismissed. This is part of guarding the heart. Allah already knows people's intentions even when they confuse you. You do not need to figure out what Allah already sees. Trusting Him allows your mind to rest. Handing over mental burdens to Allah is a form of tawakkul that brings instant relief. When you clear your mind of unnecessary people, you make room for clarity, gratitude and peace. Your thoughts become purposeful instead of repetitive. You stop revisiting old wounds and start focusing on present blessings. This shift changes how your heart feels every day. Not everyone deserves space in your mind because not everyone is meant to shape your journey. Allah is the one guiding your life, not people. When you remember this, your attachment to others' behavior weakens. Divine direction replaces human obsession. The Prophet ﷺ taught us to protect our hearts from harm. Allowing harmful thoughts to linger is a quiet form of self-harm. Letting go mentally is an act of obedience, not neglect. It shows trust in Allah's plan and respect for your own well-being. Your peace is too valuable to be disturbed by people who do not add goodness to your life. When you stop giving mental space to the wrong people, the right things begin to settle into your heart. Calm replaces confusion and clarity replaces doubt. Not everyone deserves space in your mind, but Allah always does. When He becomes the center of your thoughts, everything else finds its proper place. Your heart feels lighter, your mind feels calmer, and your faith feels stronger. And when you finally choose to guard your mind carefully, you realize something powerful. Peace was never about changing people, it was about choosing where your thoughts belong. When your thoughts belong to Allah, your heart is finally at rest. Detachment is a form of self-respect. Detachment is not coldness and it is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the moment you realize that your heart deserves protection just as much as your body does. Islam teaches dignity, and dignity begins when you stop allowing people to have unlimited access to your emotions. Detachment is choosing to value your inner peace over unnecessary attachment. When you detach, you are not saying people don't matter, you are saying Allah matters more. You stop tying your happiness to how others treat you, respond to you, or understand you. This shift restores balance to your heart. You begin to live with emotional independence, rooted in faith, not fear. Self-respect grows when you no longer chase what keeps hurting you. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stop proving your worth to those who already decided not to see it. Detachment teaches your heart that it does not need to beg for validation. Allah already honored you. Many hearts suffer not because of loss, but because of clinging. You hold on to people, expectations and outcomes that Allah never promised. Detachment frees you from this weight. It allows you to breathe again. It reminds you that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself. Detachment is choosing peace over emotional chaos. When you step back, you protect your thoughts from over-analysis and your heart from disappointment. Islam encourages moderation in everything, even in attachment. Too much emotional dependence on people weakens the soul and disturbs inner calm. Self-respect means knowing when to step away without hatred. You can detach without bitterness, without revenge, without arrogance. You leave quietly because your heart is too valuable for drama. Allah loves the believer who exits harmful situations with dignity, not noise. Detachment teaches you that love does not require self-sacrifice. You can care without destroying yourself. You can give without emptying your soul. You can forgive without returning to harm. This balance is wisdom, and wisdom is beloved to Allah. When you detach, you stop measuring your worth through attention and approval. You realize that people's moods do not define you. Their silence does not reduce you. Their distance does not erase you. Your worth comes from being a servant of Allah, not from being chosen by people. Detachment strengthens your iman because it redirects your reliance. Instead of leaning on unstable hearts, you lean on the one who never changes. Instead of trusting promises that can be broken, you trust the decree that never fails. This reliance calms the heart deeply. Some people only respect you once you detach. They were comfortable when you overgave, over-explained, and over-tolerated. Detachment restores balance. It shows that your kindness was a choice, not a weakness. Self-respect changes how people see you, but more importantly, how you see yourself. Detachment protects you from emotional manipulation. When people sense they control your reactions, they use it. When you detach, you remove their power. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding wisely. This control over yourself is a form of strength Islam praises. Self-respect means you do not stay where you are constantly hurt. Allah does not ask you to remain in pain to prove patience. Patience is not staying in harm. Patience is trusting Allah while choosing what protects your heart. Detachment is often the healthiest form of sabr. Detachment helps you heal faster. Wounds close when you stop reopening them through memories, messages, and imagined scenarios. When you step back, Allah fills the silence with clarity. Healing enters where obsession once lived. Detachment is an act of honesty with yourself. You admit what hurts you, you acknowledge your limits, you stop pretending you are okay just to keep others comfortable. Allah loves sincerity, especially when it leads you away from harm. You are not required to carry people emotionally when they refuse to treat you with care. Islam does not glorify emotional exhaustion. A believer is encouraged to protect their heart so they can worship Allah with focus and peace. Detachment creates space for growth. When your mind is no longer consumed by people, it turns toward purpose. You reflect more, pray more, and improve more. Your energy shifts from survival to elevation. Self-respect means you stop over-investing where there is no return. You stop watering plants that never grow. You trust that Allah will guide your effort toward what will flourish. Detachment aligns your energy with divine wisdom. Detachment does not mean you stop loving. It means you love without attachment. You care without control. You give without expectation. This pure form of love frees your heart from disappointment and keeps it connected to Allah. When you detach, you stop fearing loss. You understand that Allah controls who stays and who leaves. This trust removes anxiety from relationships. You no longer cling, you allow, and allowing brings peace. Detachment teaches you to sit with yourself comfortably. You no longer need constant reassurance or attention. You find calm in solitude and strength in silence. This inner stability is a sign of spiritual maturity. Self-respect grows when you stop chasing closure from people. Some chapters end without explanations. Detachment accepts that Allah's wisdom does not always come with details. Trust becomes enough. Detachment is choosing long-term peace over short-term comfort. It may feel lonely at first, but it saves you from repeated heartbreak. Allah replaces emotional emptiness with inner calm when you let go sincerely. When you detach, your prayers become more focused. Your heart is no longer divided between people and Allah. This sincerity strengthens your connection with Him. A heart fully present with Allah is a heart at rest. Detachment protects your character. It stops you from reacting in ways you might regret. It keeps your tongue gentle and your actions dignified. Islam values character above winning arguments. Self-respect means you no longer shrink yourself to be accepted. You stop lowering your standards to keep people close. You trust that what Allah has written for you will meet you at your level, not beneath it. Detachment teaches you that peace is an inside job. No one can give it to you and no one can take it away when your heart relies on Allah. This realization changes everything. When you detach, you give Allah room to work in your life. He removes what drains you and replaces it with what strengthens you. Detachment is not emptiness, it is preparation. You begin to see detachment as mercy, not loss. Allah saved you from something that would have kept hurting you. Gratitude replaces grief. Understanding replaces confusion. Self-respect is when you walk away without bitterness and without regret. You know you did your best. You leave the rest to Allah. This calm exit protects your soul. Detachment ultimately brings freedom. Freedom from anxiety, freedom from overthinking, freedom from emotional dependency. When your heart belongs fully to Allah, it no longer needs to cling to anyone else. And when you finally embrace detachment, you realize it was never about losing people. It was about finding yourself again, grounded in faith, guided by wisdom, and protected by Allah's peace. Focus on Allah, not on people's behavior. When you focus too much on people's behavior, your heart becomes restless and your mind becomes heavy. You begin to analyze words, interpret silence, and react to actions that were never meant to define you. Islam teaches us to shift our focus upward from creation to the Creator. Peace enters the heart when Allah becomes the center of your attention, not people. People will change, disappoint, misunderstand, and sometimes leave. This is the nature of human beings, but Allah never changes. When your focus is on Him, people's behavior no longer controls your emotions. You stop riding emotional waves created by others and your heart becomes anchored in something stable and eternal. Focusing on Allah means trusting His wisdom over people's choices. You may not understand why someone treated you a certain way, but Allah does. When you rely on His knowledge instead of your assumptions, confusion fades. Trust replaces anxiety and calm replaces obsession. People's actions often reflect their own struggles, not your worth. But when you focus on them, you internalize what was never yours to carry. Islam reminds us that accountability belongs to Allah. You are responsible for your intentions and actions, not for managing others' behavior. When you focus on Allah, you stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, Ya Allah, what do you want me to learn? This shift transforms pain into growth. Hardship becomes guidance. Disappointment becomes direction. A heart focused on Allah does not beg for clarity from people. It finds clarity in prayer. It finds reassurance in dhikr. It finds strength in the Quran. These sources calm the heart far more than explanations ever could. People may treat you unfairly, but Allah never does. When you focus on Him, you remember that justice does not end in this world. Allah sees every intention, every word, every action. This awareness frees you from the need to defend yourself constantly. Focusing on people's behavior pulls you into comparison. You start wondering why others are treated better or why life feels unfair. But when you focus on Allah, comparison loses its power. You trust that Allah's plan for you is unique, precise, and full of wisdom. Your peace increases when you stop reacting to every action and start responding with faith. You don't ignore wrongdoing, but you don't allow it to poison your heart. You deal with matters wisely, then leave the outcome to Allah. This balance protects your iman. When Allah becomes your focus, people's opinions become background noise. Praise does not inflate you and criticism does not crush you. Your worth is no longer measured by approval or rejection. It is measured by your sincerity with Allah. Focusing on Allah trains your heart to look inward instead of outward. You work on your character, your patience, and your intentions. You stop trying to control how others act and start refining how you respond. This inner work brings lasting peace. People's behavior often triggers emotions that cloud judgment. But remembrance of Allah clears the mind. Dhikr slows racing thoughts and brings the heart back to center. With Allah in focus, emotions no longer dictate your actions. When you focus on Allah, you accept that some relationships are tests, not blessings. Some encounters are meant to teach you boundaries, patience, or self-respect. Understanding this reduces resentment and helps you move forward with wisdom. A believer who focuses on Allah does not chase validation. They know that acceptance from people is temporary, but acceptance from Allah is eternal. This certainty stabilizes the heart during times of rejection or misunderstanding. People may fail to keep promises, but Allah never breaks His. When you rely on His promises, disappointment loses its sting. You trust that what He writes for you will arrive at the right time, even if people fall short. Focusing on Allah allows you to forgive without forgetting and to let go without bitterness. You stop replaying hurtful behavior because you trust Allah to handle justice. Your heart stays clean while Allah manages accountability. When Allah is your focus, you no longer fear people leaving. You understand that Allah controls who stays and who goes. This trust removes attachment and replaces it with acceptance. Loss becomes less frightening. Your heart feels lighter when you stop monitoring people's moods and reactions. You stop walking on emotional eggshells. You live authentically, guided by faith instead of fear. This freedom strengthens your relationship with Allah. Focusing on Allah helps you distinguish between what deserves attention and what deserves release. Not every behavior requires analysis. Not every situation requires explanation. Wisdom lies in knowing when to step back. When your focus is on Allah, you stop seeking peace through people. You seek it through prayer, patience, and trust. This internal source of peace cannot be taken away by anyone. People's behavior can distract you from your purpose if you let it. But when you focus on Allah, you stay aligned with your mission. You invest energy in growth instead of gossip, in healing instead of hurt. A heart focused on Allah does not rush conclusions. It waits, reflects, and prays. This patience prevents regret and protects relationships. Calm decisions replace impulsive reactions. Focusing on Allah strengthens emotional resilience. You become less shaken by others' actions because your foundation is firm. The storms around you do not enter your heart. When Allah is your priority, you stop overthinking people's intentions. You trust that whatever affects you was allowed for a reason. This trust quiets the mind. Your heart grows when you focus on Allah's mercy instead of people's mistakes. You become more compassionate, not because others deserve it, but because Allah loves mercy. Focusing on Allah teaches you contentment. You stop chasing what is not meant for you and start appreciating what already is. Gratitude replaces dissatisfaction. When Allah is at the center, people's behavior loses its grip on your peace. You respond with dignity, patience, and wisdom. Your actions reflect faith, not frustration. And when you finally focus on Allah instead of people, your heart settles into a calm the world cannot disturb. You realize that peace was never found in understanding others. It was found in trusting Allah completely. When you let go mentally, your heart heals. Healing does not begin when people change, it begins when your thoughts do. Letting go mentally is the moment you stop carrying what was never meant to stay in your heart. Islam teaches us that the heart needs protection, and one of the greatest protections is releasing thoughts that bring pain without benefit. When the mind loosens its grip, the heart finally breathes. Mental attachment keeps wounds open. You may have walked away physically, but your heart is still replaying conversations, imagining outcomes, and asking questions that bring no peace. Allah calls you to move forward, not to remain imprisoned by the past. Healing starts when you stop revisiting what Allah has already removed. When you let go mentally, you stop giving people power over your emotions. They no longer decide how you feel when you wake up or how you sleep at night. You reclaim your inner world. Allah never wanted your peace to depend on someone else's behavior. Your heart was created to find rest in Him alone. Letting go mentally is an act of trust. It means you accept that Allah knows what you do not. It means you believe there was wisdom behind the silence, the distance, and the ending. Even if you don't understand now, You trust that Allah protected you in ways you may only see later. Many hearts remain wounded not because of what happened, but because of what they keep thinking about. Islam teaches us to cut off thoughts that do not lead to goodness. If a thought brings sadness, fear, or resentment repeatedly, it is time to release it. This release is mercy toward yourself. When the mind calms, the heart begins to heal naturally. Your breathing becomes lighter, your prayers become deeper, your sleep becomes more peaceful. Letting go mentally allows Allah's healing to enter spaces that were blocked by constant thinking. Healing is delayed when you search for answers from people instead of peace from Allah. Not every ending comes with explanations. Some closures are spiritual, not verbal. Allah closes doors quietly so your heart can learn to rely on Him rather than words. Letting go mentally does not mean forgetting, it means accepting. You acknowledge what happened without allowing it to define you. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, Ya Allah, guide me forward. Acceptance softens the heart and opens the path to healing. Your heart heals when you stop blaming yourself for everything. Overthinking often turns into self-criticism. You replay moments and think you should have been different. Islam teaches self-reflection, not self-punishment. Learn, forgive yourself, and release the burden. When you let go mentally, you stop living in imagined scenarios. You return to the present moment where Allah's mercy exists. Peace is not found in the past or the future. It is found in trusting Allah right now. Mental release protects your iman. Constant overthinking weakens faith and feeds doubt. But when you let go, tawakkul grows stronger. You remind yourself that Allah controls outcomes, hearts and destinies. That reminder stabilizes the soul. Healing happens when you stop reopening wounds through memory. Every time you replay pain, you delay recovery. Allah wants your heart to move toward light, not stay in darkness. Letting go mentally is choosing healing over familiarity with pain. Your heart begins to heal when you redirect your thoughts toward gratitude. Gratitude shifts focus from what was lost to what remains. Allah replaces heaviness with calm when you acknowledge His blessings. A thankful heart heals faster than a questioning one. Letting go mentally teaches you emotional discipline. You learn to notice thoughts without obeying them. Not every thought deserves attention. This awareness strengthens your self-control and brings inner stability. Healing deepens when you stop expecting people to meet needs only Allah can fulfill. When you place expectations correctly, disappointment loses its power. Your heart stops aching for what humans cannot provide. Letting go mentally is not giving up, it is handing matters back to Allah. You stop trying to fix, explain or relive what is no longer in your hands. This surrender lifts a weight you carried too long. When your mind releases attachment, your heart regains softness. Anger fades, resentment weakens. Compassion returns not for those who hurt you, but for yourself. Allah loves the heart that heals without becoming hard. Healing also comes with silence. In quiet moments, Allah repairs what noise disturbed. Mental stillness allows divine comfort to settle gently in the heart. Silence becomes medicine when thoughts are released. Letting go mentally helps you reconnect with yourself. You rediscover what brings you peace, what strengthens your iman, and what aligns with your values. Healing is remembering who you are beyond pain. The heart heals when it no longer fears loss. You realize that what left was never meant to stay. Allah's plan is not cruelty, it is precision. This realization replaces fear with acceptance. Mental release protects your future. When you let go of old pain, you don't carry it into new chapters. Allah wants you healed before He blesses you again. A healed heart can hold blessings without breaking. Letting go mentally allows joy to return naturally. Laughter no longer feels forced. Smiles come without guilt. Healing doesn't erase memories, it changes how they affect you. When you stop thinking too much about people, you start thinking more clearly about Allah. Dhikr replaces doubt. Prayer replaces anxiety. This spiritual shift accelerates healing. Your heart heals when you stop waiting for people to change. Healing is not dependent on apologies or explanations. It depends on your decision to move forward with Allah. Letting go mentally brings emotional maturity. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding with wisdom. This calmness becomes your strength. Healing is gradual, not instant. Some days you feel strong, other days you feel weak. But every time you choose to release a painful thought, you move closer to peace. Allah rewards effort, not perfection. When your heart heals, your faith deepens. Pain once distracted you from Allah. Healing brings you closer. You begin to trust Him more than before. Mental release teaches you that peace is an internal choice. You cannot control people, but you can control where your thoughts go. That control brings freedom. Your heart was never meant to suffer endlessly. Allah created it for peace, balance, and remembrance. When you let go mentally, you allow your heart to return to its natural state. And when you finally release what no longer serves you, healing flows quietly but powerfully. Your heart becomes lighter, your faith steadier, and your soul calmer. Letting go mentally is not losing something. It is gaining the peace Allah intended for you all along. My dear brothers and sisters, your heart was never meant to be a prison for thoughts about other people. When you constantly analyze someone's words, intentions, or silence, you give them power over your peace, power they were never meant to have. Islam teaches us to protect the heart, because a guarded heart is a peaceful heart. Let go of the need to understand everyone. Let go of the urge to explain yourself to those who don't listen, and let go of the habit of replaying situations that Allah has already moved past. Place your focus where it belongs, on your relationship with Allah, on your growth, and on your inner calm. When you stop thinking too much about people, your mind becomes lighter, your heart becomes calmer, and your faith becomes stronger. Trust Allah with what you cannot control and free yourself from unnecessary attachments. Because the heart that relies on Allah is the heart that finally finds peace.